Well, for more on this, we're going to speak now to Aparna Pande, Research Fellow and Director of the India and South Asia Initiative at the Hudson Institute in the United States. Thank you so very much for joining us today, Aparna. So we're hearing a bit more about some of the deals that were signed at this summit, including notably on Russian fuel supplies to India. But is any of this really a surprise? I mean, is this summit more symbolic than anything else, or is it marking the start of new, unprecedented, really, areas of cooperation between Russia and India?
It is symbolic, and there's almost nothing new. The defense agreement, which was discussed, nuclear reactors, training, maritime cooperation in Arctic, and the others, they're all predictable and along familiar lines. The only additional aspects would be that the two countries are trying to broaden their economic cooperation. As your correspondent noted, they would like to increase it to 100 billion. Right now, it's only 65 billion. And so at a time when India is facing pressure from American tariffs, it is seeking other countries where it can enhance some of its economic relationship. And there's a migration and mobility aspect. Russia needs workers, and India, as you know, has a lot of workers who would like to go to other countries and contribute and send remittances back.
So, I mean, given what you said there, I understand that there's both a symbolic element and potential for new areas of cooperation. How much of this do you think is a consequence, then, not only of Donald Trump's tariffs on India, but even his administration's overtures towards rival Pakistan's civil and military leaders? I mean, do you think this is a natural course of evolution in their relationship, or is it really a consequence of the Trump administration?
So I'd say it's more the latter, but it is predictable. That's how India reacts. For India, the relationship with Russia is not a sentimental relationship. It is based on realpolitik. Russia is India's balancer against China on the continental landmass. It's also its hedge against the vagaries of American politics. And so when there are stresses on India at the global level, India needs to demonstrate that India has other partners and countries that it can work with. Russia is one of them. So is France. And there are many others. But this is India's way of hedging and demonstrating that it has partners. It's not dependent solely on the United States.
You say it's not a sentimental relationship that India has with Russia. That brings to mind, of course, the war in Ukraine, which has, in a way, allowed the nations to build closer economic ties, as you detailed there. But it would, of course, be a stretch, again, given what you say, to describe India as pro-Russian when it comes to the war. How would you characterize its position, and how might that affect some of its overtures towards other countries that you mentioned, including France?
So with respect to any conflict outside of the South Asian subcontinent, India's response has always been, for the last 78 years, that it asked both countries to stop the conflict and negotiate. And India has done the same with respect to Ukraine, but it's done the same with every other conflict anywhere in the world. India does not get involved in a conflict outside of its homeland. Even if India does not want any conflict, India does not get involved. So that's been India's stance with respect to Ukraine. With respect to its relations with other countries, France, most of India's partners, including France, know where India stands, where India stood in the Cold War with respect to Soviet Union and United States. And France knows where India stands today as well. India's biggest challenge is China. And so the main reason for the Russia relationship is that India needs, geography matters. French understand that. For India, Russia matters because of the China threat.
You say China is its main kind of problem, so to speak, but it does come as relations between India and China appear to be improving, at least in the wake of their last major conflict. I know that you wrote a piece about that just a couple of months ago. So do you think that in a way there is the possibility for a deeper kind of three-sided alliance between India, Russia, and China, especially as tensions over the war in Ukraine and the Trump administration's tariffs continue to deepen?
So for that to happen, China would need to sort of, make overtures on the Indian border and actually sign a border agreement with India. Unfortunately, I'm sure you noted that a few weeks ago, the Chinese stopped and actually sort of, held an Indian citizen from Arunachal Pradesh, claiming that since Arunachal is Chinese territory, that person sort of, is a Chinese citizen. So as long as China keeps provoking India on any border-related issues and continues its relationship, sort of, which is against Indian interests in India's neighborhood, this relationship it will be managed just as President Macron went to China. So the Indian Prime Minister will have a relationship with his Chinese counterpart because China is the biggest trading partner of any country in this world. So India cannot grow its economy without a relationship with China. That does not mean that China is not the biggest threat and rival to India in the foreseeable future.
Aparna Pande, Research Fellow and Director of the India and South Asia Initiative at the Hudson Institute. That's all we have time for today, but thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.